Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Start our lovely day out with a little tool sharpening first. Sharp tools are important, very important. Some little simple little setup blocks that I made on a 3D printer. You see me use. If you've watched this at all before. Making sure I got the hole up. And now I'm gonna reset it for 60 degrees. This grinder takes too long to slow down. But if we just make it slow down, just by grinding the heel of a tool away, and sharpen the other two, and we will be ready to rip into it. Today's project is going to be an Ambrose and maple bowl, something I need to get done and finished up. I teach classes at my local woodcraft store, and this is going to be the wood of the month, as they want to call it. I had some of this for my classes, but the owner of the store decided that he can make more money on these blanks than he can the blanks that I normally would use, which are cherry. So I haven't gotten any more of these, but I had a couple left over. Not enough to do a class, so kind of like what you want to do with them. You're going to do the wood of the month, so you could simply do one place you're not going to be able to see anything. Also, I'm doing is screwing up at this top rim a little bit, just so that I know where we're going to. Screw this outside edge up a little bit. Get rid of all razor blades. Touch those edges, because when you cut properly, there's a little tiny little flat there left it, but that's okay. It's all going to get rounded away. So I'd rather keep the bigger amount of materials I can, the most amount of materials I can all the time. Now we can come around to this side, bottom. This is going to be the bottom. This is actually on a worm screw. And pretty good sized jaws, so it shouldn't get any real flex out of it, so to speak. Ideally, I want to get it in balance as quick as I can. Means I can bring the speed up a little quicker. Just screw up a little area out here. And you flip over and then go with. Flatten out the bottom. Right in the center. I do have a little bit of a vibration coming out of it because of the worm screw. not sitting perfectly flat up there. So we'll go with that size jaws for now. The ones that we did in the class actually have some really nice color features to them. So get rid of our corn, get rid of this corner. It's all waste anyhow. If we wanted to, we could actually start to curve it a little bit. So eventually we got to get the whole way into that tenon area. I mean, an easier way is just to reduce the diameter a little bit, reduce the height, so we know that's going to be our foot in there. It's going to be a little bit too heavy of a cut. Just back off, make it in two. We'll just keep working our way towards that center point, or a foot. It would probably look pretty nice if I would leave a bead at the top as well. Leave enough material because I wasn't totally, it wasn't one little flat spot. It's got some nice character to it, nice coloring. It's always a plus. Now we can make our pennant. In this case, it's probably going to be, started off at 8. Just thinking I want the foot to be about a third of the diameter of the piece. So it's 2.5, and you started out at 8. That's probably good enough. We're gonna make it good enough. Or we're gonna say it's good enough, put it that way. Sort of coming out and about a little bit. These blanks are not real thick. comes a little different on making the curve that I want. I'll take a little more off in there. Towards the top. And run that up just a little bit farther. Sneak into that corner. I think that's going to work for that. You have a little bit of a shear scraping motion in here eventually to get that squared away. Just give us a little rounded foot. Also went back to a spindle gouge for this. Thank you. I try. Clean cut to the center. That tenon should be the right size. After you got a little scraping on there. This is kind of the hard part of leaving a foot like that, is to get into that corner. But we have some things to do that with. Maybe not. So we use a traditional scraper to get in there. And this looks like we're going to go back to the grinder. Yeah, do them all. I do them all. Yesterday's live stream was actually all spindle work. I made a bunch of little trees. Take the face shield off. That my big head will be right in the camera. This is a traditional scraper, as in a single bevel. But I probably do. I answer your question a little bit better. I mean, I do a little bit of everything when it comes to that. I don't do a whole lot of spindle work, but I do some. I mean, you have to. There's just no. I shouldn't say you have to, but for the most part, you're always going to have to do a little bit of spindle type work. One thing I definitely try and stay away from is doing any kind of production kind of work. That I don't particularly care for. A little detail for the foot. Get right in beside that little bead in there. Caused up a little bit of grain right there. We can turn the scraper up on its side. Ah, I'd keep your 9 to 5. Be quite honest, I'd keep your 9 to 5. You don't. And I saw my work too, but it just not. unless you're somebody that's really is persistent at it, I guess maybe really work hard at some of that. It just it just doesn't happen. I mean, granted, yeah, you can sell some stuff to be able to afford some equipment and things like that, but I commend those people that actually do this kind of this in the turning world that actually make a living doing it, or at least so-called living doing it. Behind the scenes of some of that kind of stuff that you may see on the social media platforms or wherever is you don't see the fact that they're working very long days and it takes a whole lot of years of persistence to actually get to that point of making any money at it. Sort of the money making one would be, or to make money in this industry, I guess you would say, would be you'd have to do production work, which means you also have to be very fast at what you're doing. The other one would be if you get good enough at it that you can like teach classes doing this kind of work. There is money in that. Right. Yeah. Today, unfortunately, today's day and age of I like to pick on the younger generation because they're the ones that have ruined a lot of this stuff as far as I'm concerned. People they don't appreciate a piece of handmade furniture. Well, I did that in much younger days of building furniture for stuff, different stuff. I still have all this stuff and still do a little bit of it from time to time, but people just don't want to, they don't have patience to wait for something to get done right. They'd much rather go to an IKEA or some silly place like that and just buy a piece of furniture in a box that they got to assemble. And it's faster, it's cheaper, and they don't care whether it only lasts a short period of time. It's not what they're concerned about. They just want everything right now. And you tell them it's going to take 6 weeks or something like that to get something done. Now it's like, oh, that's good. And the price of materials. Price of materials is really, right now, would make it even harder yet, I would think. But yeah, I teach the wood turning classes at my local woodcraft store. A piece of sandpaper shot. Um, and yeah, it's even some of the younger generation that actually work at that store. It's like nowadays, it's like, well, I got to have a CNC. I got to do, have all this high tech stuff to do my work, and I just look at them and laugh and like, uh, I'm 64 years old. I said, I don't own any of that stuff. I said, nor do I need to own any of that stuff. I'm like, everything you showed me can be done in many other ways than sitting in front of the computer to design it. I mean, the design part's all right on the computer, but as far as the woodworking end of it, it's like, I don't need that stuff. I got away with it for all these years. I said, really? The only problem with leaving a little beaded foot down here is you got to hand sand in those areas a little bit. Same way underneath this rim up here. One thing with the classes that I teach for them over there, of course, this is probably one of the this is absolutely the most popular classes to do a bowl, which I don't necessarily get the answers that I would think. I don't have a laser either. There's a lot of people that do that stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of old school when it comes to a lot of that stuff. A friend of my wife's has one of the Glowforge lasers. Yeah, we were over a couple different times. My wife is a decorative painter. So a lot of the stuff that they may use for that, a lot of times gets cut on a laser just because it's so much faster, or at least some of it's faster, more detail. But there again, where my question on most of that kind of stuff for me is where's the market at for something of that nature? And you're back to the same thing of production kind of work. I worked in a paper factory for 28 years, first 28 years of my working career, and then switched over and drove a truck for the last 17 of it, because I am retired. But it's like, yeah, I don't need to do production work anymore. I'd rather do my own thing and sort of on my own time schedule even. Should have inspected a little sooner. This rim up here, I can do that once I flip it around anyhow. I'm not worried about that. Making sure there's nothing too drastic in there. Now to get it off the trusty worm screw. Probably used the right size drill bit, but maybe I didn't. This ambrosia maple is pretty hard. And the guy that Well, the same people own the store that they actually have a lumber business as well. So he gets this stuff right from the mill. And it's all kiln dried, which is all he wants me to use, which is something I don't necessarily. This would be a rarity for me to use something kiln dried in my turning world. Most of what I use will be something I've gotten as green logs or something like that. And I go from there, which is much more fun. Less dusty, for one. As long as I did that tenon the right size, less than 1/8 of an inch gap in the jaws, that will not leave any marks. So that's basically the inside of the outside of that bowl is complete at this point. And now we hollow out the inside. We'll trim that rim down a bit too while we're at it. And if we did everything right, it should spin true. Just like the bottom. I'll clean off this space just so that I don't have anything bouncing around. I'm just looking at this. I'm not necessarily liking the bead that I left up there, but we'll deal with that when we get that far. Rest is a smidge on the low side. Definitely don't want to come in under center. Get rid of some of the material out here. Actually, it would be a good idea. Turn the dust collector on. Like I say, it's kiln dried. It's kind of dusty. Oh shit! Don't yell at me. Damn. My bad habit. Should have yelled at me. I left it sitting on the grinder, not what we're doing. Need a little bit more depth. Establish my wall thickness out here. I think I'm going to trim this down a bit more. It's a little bit too big for me. At least for my liking, put it that way. Still plenty thick too. Around the corner we go. do it all in stages, as you can very well see. I'm almost getting ahead of myself a little bit. I need to finish up this little bead out here before I run out of support. Something like that. Not really worried that it's not a perfect bead out here. I have a tendency to leave like a point sticking up, which goes away extremely quickly with sanding. Stop and make sure I don't have anything. Make sure we don't have anything tore up. In good shape. Little ridges in there, but like I said, they go away very, very quickly. I take my bowls down in stages. I want to keep the support where the support is needed. Sounds like we're getting that a bit on the thin side. Yeah, a little bit out there. Also doesn't feel as though that tool is as sharp as it could be. Wonders if some of the ambrosia stuff is that it's can be a little abrasive on some tools. And then when we use this in the class, not the same tools that I use, but they had to sharpen like 2 times on the outside of the bowl and 2 times on the inside of the bowl, as they were getting to all that quickly. And there's probably some silicate in this. So that should be the final pass down into that area. I'll leave a little ridge up there, but that's okay. That's what sandpaper's for. Actually got that a little thinner than what I needed to. At about 3/8 maybe a little less. Getting a tool resting at a little bit of an angle eventually because we're going to go across the middle here. You have to keep in mind these are not real deep. almost sounding a bit thin. No, it's alright. Definitely don't want to go hardly any, really much deeper. I do want a genuine curve the whole way through it though. Fingers tell all. If I run my fingers down across, I can feel where there's not a very nice transition right in there. The problem lies is that I take a little bit of it out, not much. It's fairly thin already. Just ever so slight. Make one definite nice cut the whole way to the center. And that should be that. Maybe one more. Starting at about there. I think that's going to be it. I like to keep pushing the envelopes. I have left a little bit of a hump right in here. Feels like I have enough material to do it. That should be that. I'm happy. Found the maker, so it has to suit me. We're not trying to make something for somebody else's specifications. Just has to work for me. So, I don't think I can sand that with a 3-inch pad. If I put the softener on, we might be able to try it. If I could sand it with a 3-inch, it'll go a little easier, a little quicker. I'm sure we can. Inside we'll start a little bit coarser. Outside I was able to start at 150. Inside we have some ripples, so we're gonna start out a little bit coarser at 120. And the 3-inch head, I don't think it's gonna work. I'm gonna go around my bead over around here. A little easier to take that high spot off with power rather than not power. This 3-inch pad does not meet, well, it should match that radius pretty good. Didn't look like it when it was spinning around. Always got to be a little bit of disturbed grain in certain places. Yeah, I think we're just going to go to 2 inch and be done with it. It's nicer when you can use the bigger pads, but it also has to match that radius on the inside. And that's not matching it for me, put it that way. I thought I got all new sandpaper out yesterday, but I didn't. I did, and I used it up already. Sandpaper is just like the cutting tools, need to be sharp. I will stick with the softer pad though. There you that little area there. And there's going to be another one. Generally be another one in this very same place on the other side. So a little bit without the machine running does wonders. Yeah, that's matching that curve a whole lot better in there. Get that bead rounded over. Not leave a sharper edge out here though. I use an old paintbrush to get the dust and debris out of there. There's always little bits of sandpaper grit that would come off of the paper and be sitting in there. So you switch to the next higher grit, and all of a sudden you're putting scratches of the previous grit back in rather than removing things. That was 220. On to 320. Yeah, I work on somewhere a little different with that camera. I keep bumping my head on it. was 400. I'll do 600 on the inside. I didn't do it 600 on the outside, but one last little bit. A little bit of more hand sanding on that bead up there, and we'll be done. And that we'll do with sheet paper. Also, we'll spin that in reverse, just by virtue of I can work on the top up here rather than bending over. It didn't need much, just a little bit. A little bit of a sharp corner up there. Does have some little cracks in it. That was one of the things that I told the wood guy. There was actually one of them. Oh shit! Yeah, there's a bunch of little cracks right there. It's all in the ambrosia streaks of it. One of the people in my class was doing actually outside of his bowl. There's quite a few of them in there. Showed up with some pretty good sized cracks in it. Just kind of politely told him that I'm like, oh, I'll go get you another piece of wood. He said, what for? I said, because we're not having a bowl fly apart just by virtue of the piece of wood is not what we want it to be. So that's ready for finish, which is where we'll go next. I'll wipe out the dust on the inside while I'm here. Simple paper towel. It's kind of like using a tack cloth on something. There's a lot of dirt comes off of there. Now we're ready for some finish. And unfortunately, maybe I can with that one. This would be too easy if I could do it this way. I think we can. A little paper towel padding in there. Just something to hold it. That's really all I'm after. I'm not going to spin it. I spin it by hand, so it doesn't matter whether it's spinning true or not. Finish I use is a Parfix 3408, which is a slow setting, no odor super glue. So we'll get one coat only. Come back tomorrow or another day this week and give it a buff. And it will give us a nice sort of semi-gloss shine to it. Simplest finish for wood turning that I've ever come across. I am a distributor of it, but that's the only reason I'm a distributor is I had trouble getting it. The older gentleman that showed it to me and got me started using it was a little iffy on when you could get a hold of them and get some more from them. And I saw an ad for the company that makes it, which is Parson Industries. And I'm like, what's it take to become a distributor? And they went over it, and that's been probably 4 years ago, something like that. I think it's finished as a natural piece of wood. This is what it's going to get on it. Even if it gets dyed, depending on which dyes I use, I will use this as well. It's just so simple to use. Quick and easy. This maple's a little bit more thirsty than what I would have thought it would have been. What I'm looking to do is sort of saturate it. What it's doing is, since it's slow setting and it's very, very thin, it's way thinner than any of the so-called thin super glues that you see out there on the market. It soaks into the wood. One thing you do have to pay attention to on it is if you get really thin on the walls of something like this, it will run straight through to the other side. By all rights, I probably should have put a piece of wax paper instead of the paper towels, but we're brave. So from there, we're going to wipe off the excess. There's still some of it sitting on the surface. All I want is what went soaked down into the wood. We're going to make sure we get all the excess off all the way around. And this stuff has a 24-hour cure time, so this is where you get to be a little bit patient with it and just give it its 24 hours. Come back tomorrow or another day and buff it and be done. Also, don't do that last little bit in the bottom because it needs to be signed. It needs the wood type, and for me, I just put my initials. Probably will put the year on it because of where it's going. We'll use a little bit of activator on it just so that it's a little easier to handle. One squirt on each side at a distance. All I want is the mist to land down on it. Right now, you pretty much can touch it with your hand. Not an overly great idea to touch it by your hand. If there's any real moisture in your hand, it could stick fast. Because unlike most people's belief that super glue only activates when you hit it with an activator, all reality is moisture will set super glue up quicker than anything. So we'll put it back in the chuck. A little light hold on it. Rinse and repeat on the inside. I put a little piece of polyester felt in the middle. Sort of acts as like a little pad. A little reservoir more so than anything. Inside will take less than the outside because the outside has already been sealed and filled. So the inside will take less material to get the same result. Whatever the second side is, whether you do the inside first or the outside. I generally do the outside first for me. Because if I did this inside, then I can't flip it around and do the inside without running the risk of whatever is on the inside sticking fast to it. It might raise the grain a little bit. We'll see till tomorrow. At the end, it's not really that big of a deal if it does raise the grain a little bit, or there's too much. Didn't get all the dust out of it. It leaves some little nibs. If you finish furniture, you know that what all the little nibs that show up. almost no matter what you do. This is no different. I just take a little bit of 800 grit sandpaper, give it a real light sand, and then buff it, and if there's places that aren't as smooth as what I want, then a little bit of 800 grit sandpaper, and away they go. That's it. That's a completed project, all in one sitting. Once again, we'll activate it a little bit. Right now we have plenty of, I'm in central Pennsylvania, so there's really plenty of moisture in there. There's inside, and drop it on the floor always helps. Outside finish, except for this little area in here. That gets the information on that. I don't know. Ambrosia streaks are there, but definitely on the outside. Places just I can feel with just the gloved finger that there's places out there that I'm going to have to go back and address as far as just a little bit of sanding. We're at 230. I got a whole bunch of really little ones to do. I think I'll do one or two of them quick like. If you could be so kind to help an old man out and smash that subscribe button, that would be a wonderful thing. And as well as the like button. Help me out a little bit. This is what's called utilizing the wood that's available to you. These are just little blocks of, this is actually catalpa, if you've ever heard of that. It's actually a very soft wood. Grows very fast. The growth rings are really far apart. Move the camera this time. Maybe I don't want to hit my head on it. Or I'll hit it where it should. What has been done to it is there's a 2-inch hole, or 2 1/8, I think it is. Forstner bit drilled on the drill press. I'm expanding out into that recess. That will be the top of the bowl. It's kind of a quick and easy way to do it. It does have square corners at the present time, so this first order of business is to get rid of them. We always start out nice and slow, standing off to the side. Get a bit of rattle out of that. Didn't have quite enough pressure on the tailstock. I really don't necessarily need the tailstock at this point. It's just kind of one of them situations of you have it, why not use it? Just to get rid of these corners. And you can sort of see where the ghost image would be on the inside, or on my side of it. It's also not very flat at the top. These were done with not necessarily intentions of doing what I'm doing with them, so got a flat surface on the top, so we know where the top of the bowl is going to be. Still not round. Let's do one more little cut. Get rid of that really sharp edge. It's just kind of a safety thing, just to touch that little edge. Not totally. One little flat spot, two little flat spots. They'll go away when we make the shape. That way we keep as much diameter as what we can from the start. And switch to this. Yeah, let's go back to a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger tortoise. First things first, we'll clean up the bottom. Give us the tenon size. Like these other ones I've been using, it's about a 2-inch tenon. Look at that, that might be a little bit big. But the bottom line is we can always take more off. Just a little bit of a challenge to put it back. Drop it down a little bit in that area because that's where we're going to have our foot. Just like our big bowl, we're going to leave a little bit of a rim up there. These smaller bowls are actually more challenging to get a pleasing shape out of them. Easier if I did my tenon first. I want this curve to go from down here. Cut more of that corner away. But also wants to have a little bead on there. And like that, a little scraper action in there in that corner, and that'll be that. And the bead. Anything wrong with the catalpa. It's a little bit chippy. This is not really even super dry. Got a little bit of moisture to it yet. See if we can cut the foot a little bit cleaner than what it is. Just a spindle gouge rather than the bowl gouge. A little undercut right through center. Feels better. Super light touch helps wondrous. Should be able to stop the handle a little bit and do just like a shear scraping cut with the spindle gouge as well. Still feels like it left a place. It likes to. It's not really picking the grain out. It just wants to make it stand up somewhat. Let's try the scraper once, see what it does to it. And try to leave that down. We'll just use it as a shear scraper. Nice light touch. Just like using a skew in some ways. That you're not going to, with this one here, you're not going to cut above center. You're cutting with the bottom third of the blade, or at least the bottom half. It's all about saving sanding time, getting the shape right. It feels pretty good. Just by touching it, you can usually feel these places that are picked up a little bit. There's some ripples in there, without a doubt. Ooh, that bead wouldn't look very good with a chunk in it. Oh, 2 chunks in it. Flat spots. It's not good. I forgot I never went the whole way to the top. They're still there. Well, so much for not having, so much for a bead at the top. I'll just make it curl back in a little bit. And left a definite lump. Also, I don't want it to curve in a ton. It just it'll make more work on the other side to do that. Doesn't feel like it's overly wet. This come out of a log that's been around for quite a while. I did do some of this the other week and didn't have any issues with it. Next issue is we're gonna have to clean up some chips here at my feet more so. So we'll give it a sand. This is kind of the unfun part of the whole wood turning world, but whether you're doing furniture work or turning work, it's all got to get sanded. And these are small, so these pretty much get sanded with just hand sanding. It is spinning in reverse, if you didn't figure that one out. The reason being is you can see where all the dust goes directly into the dust collection chute there. So it doesn't have to travel up and around. Looking for them places that have a little bit of picked up grain. Some of them are still there, so I will go back over that area again. This time I switched it to normal forward mode. So any of them places that were sort of, they really don't pick out, they just sort of stand up. So now I went in the opposite direction for them. And it usually literally just breaks them off or sands them off going that way. We got to keep our sandpaper moving quite quickly. We don't want to hang out in one spot because we're leaving concentric lines anyhow as it stands. So we don't want to add to it. Sand the bottom because that shows somebody that you cared enough to actually address that. A little bit in that corner yet. When I'm sanding by hand, I will go to a much higher grit than what I would if I was power sanding. Power sanding, I'm generally going to stop at 400, possibly even 600 depending on the piece of wood. When I sand by hand, I will go straight through to 800, just so that I make those scratch lines smaller and smaller, less noticeable. Doesn't take long. When we go to 800, we'll do little random orbit circles, which will break up those radial scratches, concentric rings as you would put it, to going around the piece. And one would say, well, you're putting other little round circles in, but the idea of this is that your eyes cannot pick up 800 grit scratches. So if you take the time to do this, I should have taken the time to do that on the other bowl. I didn't. So that side's ready for finish. I'll wipe it off while I'm here. And that's the outside of our bowl ready to go. Little itty bitty bowls. They're kind of fun to do in a way. Release it. I will have to switch chucks because that's not the right size for that one. I probably actually could probably actually have made that tenon smaller to fit that chuck there. Difference being this is more like 2 and I think it's a little over 2. A little under 2. The other one would be about 1 3/4 inches. As long as it's a perfect circle. And these are dovetail draws, so it's going down in that little groove. So if it puts any kind of marks, it'll be down inside that groove where you can't see it. But that should actually be right anyhow. So now we can hollow out the inside. Leave my dust collection hose right where it's at. It'll be less mess for me to clean up later. So if we did everything right, it should spin true. I don't like to have to go back and redo my work. Clean up the face. When they're really little, you can almost dig them the whole way out before you actually set the wall thickness. That's a little thicker than what I wanted. Light in my road. Rid of that razor blade. If you wanted to, you could actually put a bit of maybe curve that in a little bit. There's nothing says we can't do that with just a little bit of sandpaper as well. Definitely when they're small, you won't see me reach in there with them. I was more interested in just the first 1/2 inch. But since we curled this in, we want to curl that back underneath a little bit, which we were actually successful with that. Just still too thick. These little ones, you can spend more time with these little ones than you ever do with a bigger bowl. You get them right. Still too thick in the bottom for my liking. I'm going to come way back up here though. I left a nasty little ridge up in there. Certainly nothing wrong with a bowl that has a little bit of extra weight in the bottom, especially when they're little like this. Left a lump right there. And I think that'll be it. As long as we get this one squared away. And go just a shade bit deeper. There's also a little bit different degree of grind on the end of that one, which will allow me to turn a tighter radius in there. At least it should have. Turned it just a little too tight. Just not getting that curved the way I want it. Always another way to skin a cat. I can use a scraper on it. I may very well have to go back after it with the gouge afterwards. Not all wood like to be scraped. There was just a hump in there. When I put the scraper in, I could see the hump. I still left another one. For me, it's all about the feel. It has to feel right to my fingers. Which that took care of it. As we didn't, just gonna have. It's gonna be a matter of we're gonna start a little bit coarser on sandpaper. I don't. Actually, I think I did the last ones of these I did. I think I can actually power sand these. If that's the case, then wonderful. I don't know if I can do it with a soft pad though. No. So I have a pad that actually has a small Velcro and it's radiused on the edges. It's kind of a little bit abusive on the sandpaper because there's unsupported areas of sandpaper sticking out on either side of it. But it will work. It will work very nicely. Turn our speed down. Shouldn't take a ton to get in there and clean up our little ripples. Pretty much took care of it. what I like, nice and easy. Nice little round over into the wall. So that was 150. We'll go to 220. Okay, that's 400. That's where we're going to stop on that one. Just like I did on the outside, on the inside we can do the same little 800 grit random orbit. Pretty much know where the scratches will show up. Unfortunately, they'll usually be dead center because of the slow rotation in there. And that should be that. A little dust out. One little 4 inch, I think they are. That's about where they end up at. Or not even 4, 3.5 inches by about 1 3/4 inches. Kind of a cute little bowl, one might say. Little new dust collection. I think this one is small enough to go in there. Yep. Another time like the present, might as well just up and finish it. And then we might just call it a day. It's 3 o'clock. I did leave some little marks in there though. See if I can't get it centered up well enough. That did good. So I did leave my pennant was just a shade bit too long or too big. So it left a little chuck marks in it on there. So just go back with a little bit of sandpaper. It won't take much because they're elevated. So that'll be the first thing to actually get sanded off. So that got rid of them. That was just 320. We'll hit a little bit of 400 just because we can. No point in not doing it. Now we're ready. Now we're ready for the finish. Back to my finish of choice. It's super glue. Particular one is Parfix 3408. Slow setting super glue. It has a 40-second time delay, which will allow me to do what I'm going to do with it. I would not recommend trying to do this with the normal quick setting super glue. It will not work. Unless you want to put multiple coats on and sand the whole thing again. I don't want to do that. I want to be done. Nice liberal coat. This catalpa is going to, actually I probably could have used a thicker one on this. Didn't think of that. Could have used there's the next level up is a little bit thicker. Same property, same time delay on the setup. It's just a little bit thicker, so something like this that's very porous, an open type grain like this one, that might have actually been a better choice. A little bit, but this will work. As you can see, doesn't take long. It is still super glue though. Keep that in mind. Just because it doesn't have an odor and it's slower setting, it's still super glue. It still will stick things together. Fingers and whatever else it comes in contact with. The super glue will normally stick to. Wipe off the excess. I want the surface to be pretty much dried off. What I'm after is what went down into the pores of the wood. Give it a little activation. Of course, now inside will be a little different. I'm gonna go grab another glove. I'm gonna hold that in my hand. I don't want to do it with an ungloved hand. By virtue of there still could be some super glue that would still be active enough on the surface that it could stick to my hand. It'll stick to your hand quicker than it will a rubber, the Nerdle glove. First off, we got to get it off of there. And this fun foam, it just seems to create a nice suction in there. Simple thing to do though. Actually, the inside I probably don't even need. I don't really need to use another piece of polyester. Yes, I do. Makes it less messy. And it's certainly cheap enough. Once again, our same little pad. Get lots on our pad. Like I say, the inside will take less than the outside did, but it's already sealed. In this case, we'll just rub it around because I don't want to grab it back in the chuck because we know it's not quite the right size right off the bat. Probably just as easy with that smaller ones, just to do it by hand in your hand. So that took all of what, 20 seconds. So we can let it sit there another 10 or 15 seconds, 20 seconds. We'll wipe off the excess. There's plenty. There'll be plenty comes back off. Also helps to clean the pores of the grain out because it'll pull them. Usually, it'll pull that dirt back out of them. And make sure I get everything dried off. Spinning around in the light, make sure there's no real super shiny spots, that there's still wet glue on the surface. Because if you don't follow that simple little step, why it'll come back to haunt you later. Give it a shot of activator just because. That's it. 2 bowls done. Little guy. You go to craft shows or markets or whatever. The ladies kind of like these little ones because they can put them on their dresser or nightstand or whatever, and throw their earrings or what have you in them. Not such a big gaudy thing taking place. So I think that's going to be it for me for today, at least for now. Not saying I won't come back and work later, a little bit later on this evening, but as far as streaming goes, I think that's going to be it. Because we are at, I don't even remember what time I started. I think I started around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Anybody have any questions, comments? Now's the time. If you didn't already do so, it'd be nice if you jump down there and hit that like button as well as the subscribe button. That would help me out a little bit. Normally I'm here on Sunday evenings. We're kind of trying this thing of doing some daytime streaming as well. For me, it's kind of an issue, kind of a thing of why not, because I'm generally down here working, so might as well let somebody else come along and see what I do and how I do it. So, till next time, you all have a wonderful rest of your day.